Hello, my name is Diederich. I'm the president of APSI, and today I'm very happy to have the president of the ATEL, is the Association of the Treasurers, François Masquelier. Hello, welcome. This is the first APSI talk we organized. We will in the next months organize other talks about different topics. So today is everything which is around the digitalization of the treasury management function. François, as you know, the world is going faster and faster. In the past, treasurers have been in batch mode, interaction with the banks have been slow and inefficient. Today, more and more, the treasurers are integrated with the bank systems, and more they work in an STP and straight-through processing mode. What do you see, you and your members today? How far are we? What is the way we have to do? How fast it is? How good is the collaboration with the banks? Because it's very important for all the treasurers to have a fast STP also with the banks.
It's an interesting question. So actually, corporate treasurers try to be quite far on the straight-through processing, let's say, target. They try to have a better connection between their system, not only for payment, but also all the systems they use. And as you know, digitization, it's quite an important issue. According to the last EACT survey in April 2021, digitization came number 2 in terms of top priority. And besides digitization, of course, it's the use of fintech, new solution, but also how to, let's say, have a better STP between systems and to make sure that the information is flowing from a system to another, from banks to corporates on a smoother way and easily, fully secured. So STP, we are quite far. Also, I have to confess that in general, again, it's not a specific statement, it's a general statement, a lot of corporates still need to make a lot of efforts to be further, let's say, STP'd and to have a better automation of processes. We still have a few processes like FX, some payments that are still highly manual or semi-manual. Then regarding the STP in the other, let's say, treasury function, around treasury, because we talked about corporate treasury, I have the impression that other functions like treasurers in the fund, private equity, real estate funds, fund servicers, family offices are certainly a step below. So corporate treasurers are quite far in the digitization and STP, although they are not yet at the level they should be.
Okay. Yeah, what we see is that the banks in general have issues with the digitalization because of the past. Of course, they have, since the 60s, the 70s, built on mainframe systems, on technologies today, which are still very expensive, not very flexible. And more, let's say, they are in a situation where they have to make changes in their, what they call the legacy systems, and to replace them. We have now, since 2019, through the European Commission and the PSD2, banks have been forced to open up payments accounts in general through APIs. So it's public APIs like the fintechs. And today there is more and more an issue on the open banking, because on one side you have all regulations on GDPR, banking secrecy and all this. On the other side you have open banking, access to accounts. So today treasurers, how far are they with the APIization of their system, and how far they are to use in their profit open banking?
Again, in general, they are quite far on this journey to digitization of their function. They use a lot of systems, and we will talk about this system they are using. However, they still have part of the function that are still a bit siloed or not really fully integrated. And especially when we go outside the treasury department, a lot of departments are managed by silos, and we don't have the flow of information. And we know that between treasury and accounting, it's quite important, especially when we talk about payments, when we talk about bank accounts, etc. So it's quite important to consider that PSD2, as you mentioned, and open banking completely changed completely the landscape. It went even further than what we lobbied for years as corporate treasurers at the EU level. I think it's an opportunity for all of them. But you mentioned we have some hurdles. The first hurdle for the bank is a legacy system. So they have very historical system, and it's not easy to develop, let's say, and to open the system to the world. Although I see some trends, and some banks, large cash management banks, try to develop what I call the co-creation. They try to collaborate with the fintech, with the APIs, actually it's interfaces, with the banks and the corporates to create a sort of co-creation. And it's important for us, if we claim that banks are not delivering services, we should also explain what we expect from banks to help them in developing solutions that, when it works, could be industrialized to other customers. So it's like Formula One. So it's good to have high technology, because once it's fully mastered, you can also get the benefit for the all the other players. So I keep thinking that open banking offer and open doors to a lot of opportunities, providing corporates also play the game and jump on stage to co-create and to help banks, APIs and fintech to create the solution of the future. So,
okay. This is more, let's say, the world of what I call the evolution of the treasury functions, the digitalization. Now, if we look at what happened with the introduction of the DLT, the distributed ledger technology, blockchain, all this, of course, many people have ignored, the banks also, treasurers also, all is based on central bank fiat money today. So what we see is that the blockchain is more and more in the middle of the game, that I imagine treasurers have to prepare themselves in the future to get paid and pay in crypto. And I think even central bankers and governments who have ignored the topic are more and more in a way of creating their own central bank digital currency, which will mean that we will move from fiat into central bank digital currency, sure, which will then be the fuel of the treasurers and the companies to pay and to get paid. What is the view of Artel on this? It's not for tomorrow, but the revolution will happen probably in the next 5 years.
I completely agree, and more than Artel is just the European Association of Corporate Treasurers. We do believe that for sure cryptocurrencies are emerging. I don't know exactly when, but they are emerging. But we still have a couple of issues. The first issue, we talk about virtual currencies, but are they really currencies? That's the big question. To me, it's more a new asset class, because when you think about it, we have a few issues. Issues for corporates are there are no interest rate, no return, negative or positive, by the way, no possibility to hedge these currencies, although currencies normally could be hedged. High volatility. When I say high volatility, higher than the volatility we face with Turkish lira, real or Russian ruble in the recent month after COVID. So it's really extremely high volatility and a lot of uncertainties given the absence of a legal framework. And all in, I keep thinking that for us corporates, which are in general, Treasury Department are in general very conservative, it's quite difficult to invest in currencies, virtual currencies, when we have so, let's say, important and very strict guideline in terms of preserving the principle. So why not investing in this class of asset, but and especially with negative interest rate, it's tempting, but you need to know exactly where you are going to and the risk of volatility and potentially loss in capital you will have. So I keep thinking that what is missing, it's first the culture, but the new generation, the Z generation will change the culture to be able to pay with virtual currencies, because at the end of the day, if you cannot pay and buy something with a currency, it's not a mean of payment, and so the value will be limited. And then if we need to stock and to pile these currencies for paying the supplier of the company, we need to make sure that we are also organized and have the legal framework. And it's why you mentioned the recent development in the central bank currencies, virtual currencies. and we know that the Chinese are ahead of the others, there I feel more comfortable because a central bank is behind and give us more comfort that we will be delivered, that there is a certain framework. So these are the major, let's say, hurdle or issues for corporate treasurers. We know it's coming. I cannot tell you when, but providing we can, let's say, answer this question, I'm sure that it will be necessary to consider as a new asset class to be handled by treasurers.
As I said, we believe in APSI that probably in the next 5 years it will happen. I would, as a comment, say there are two aspects. I think at the beginning, of course, the governments understood that the distributed ledger is impossible really first to shut down, second, really to regulate, because it's just the opposite to a central power because it's distributed. So it's of course also an anti-power game. Is a little bit, I'm always saying, it's like the hippies in '68, meaning they wanted to change the world. And I think it will not happen that way, like the hippies have not changed completely the world. It's now for the moment, and we are in uncertain times with the pandemic, the crisis. But what I think is the good news about central bank digital currency, you have already the C for central. Okay, it's not marked distributed. And I think why they are doing it is because they are very much afraid of losing even much more power with the tokenization, as you said, the new assets of the fiat money. Because today you have what they call the stable coin, a stable euro, a stable USD, and so on. The problem with that is that the fiat is dorming somewhere and the stable coin is going around and nobody knows what's going on. And so they lose completely the power of knowing what's going on, and it will be the people issuing the token who will play the game, and they will just be there as a custodian, having a big sum of money, but nobody knows for what is good. And so that's why I believe they go into this model, also the two-level model, because today the distributed ledger is one level, is peer-to-peer. And so they will, like you said, the Chinese, they will create, like with fiat money, meaning the central bank of Luxembourg is issuing the money, but then they come into the banking system, and then the banks are running the business around it. And I believe that's why they create now the digital bank, the central digital bank currencies, is in order to replicate the fiat and to avoid first stable coins, and second, the distributed ledger and the blockchain craziness, where they have no influence on it. That's what we believe is the big challenge.
What is quite interesting is when you consider that when the Bitcoin was created, one of the objectives was it was a libertarian initiative. So the idea was to completely disconnect from the states and to be independent from states and central banks. And at the end of the day, no central banks are coming with digital and cryptocurrencies. But it will give the comfort and as you mentioned, the frame to ensure people that it's not, let's say, completely sulfurous currencies, because there's still a lot of people, and especially in the treasury community, are still skeptical about the currency. But it will come. It's just a question of years, maybe 5 years. Let's bet.
Thank you, François. Have a nice day.
Thanks a lot.